Jesus began to teach in Matthew chapter 13, and he spoke about something in the earlier part of that chapter, up until around the 9th verse. Jesus began to teach about something. Now, you will notice that Jesus Christ used parables. And this is one of the parables that is called the parable of the sower. Jesus used parables to teach. Why will he use parables to teach? Can we establish this morning, that Jesus did not use parables to teach to confuse the people? The purpose of parables is to do what? Is not to confuse the people, but parables were used in the days of Jesus to explain kingdom truths, heavenly truths to people. You will hear parables like the parables of the 10 virgins. You will hear parables like the parables of the sower. And all these parables were given to teach. Jesus Christ actually, in his office as a teacher, like a teacher in the 21st century, teaching about pediatrics, will use things to explain it. The way he will explain it to his students who are doing postgraduate studies will be different from the way he will describe it, or the things he will use for his children his students who are just getting into medical school and don't know whether they will finish or not. That is why the Bible says that parables were used to teach the things of the kingdom. And hear me, for all these parables, you will agree with me that if you have heard any of Jesus' parables before, at a point in your life, you will never think of any of those parables as fictions. At a point in your life, they will be so real. To me, those parables were not just stories. They are not just fictions. I have gotten to a point in my work with God that even the parables of Jesus that are just stories are no longer stories because of the truths that they carry. Is somebody following what I'm talking about? That the parable of the lost son, each time I hear that parable read, or I read it, or somebody preaches about it, I see a lost son. I see a loving father. I see a son that even 2,000 years after the parable was told, we still look at him and clothe him in the garments of the past. That is how real some parables are. Most parables. And here Jesus Christ gave to us the parable of the sower. I want to do basic studies today. The central theme of the parable of the sower is not the sower. The central theme of the parable of the sower is not even the seed. It is the ground, which is symbolic of what? Of the conditions of the heart. You know, I told you I'm not going to preach for long today, and I mean it. It is not. The focus there is not the sower. The focus there is not the seed. The focus is the soil. I grew up on the farm. My father was a farmer, and I'm proud of it. Farmer not by American standard, but farmer by Nigerian standard. So I knew, I think Grandpa was a farmer too. So why are you laughing? So me and Prof, we are sons of farmers. Sons of farmers. At home, Joy will say, but what do you expect? Your father is a farmer now. So we are sons of farmers. We grew up on the farm. And we understand this. In those days when we will plant corn, my father used to have about maybe 25, 30 acres of farmland. And we planted everything that we needed, including vegetables, including yam, including corn, guinea corn. We planted them. And I understand a little bit about the parable of the sower. I think I had preached this before, where I told you in church that sower must be a careless planter. Did anybody hear that? Where I said that his success rate was only 25%. Dr. Fagbemi will have had that kind of a thing before. I take it back this morning. The reason is this: there are so many ways that people plant. Some things, when they plant them, they scatter the seed. Some other seeds, they dig the ground. Is somebody following what I'm talking about? So, this morning, I take that thing back. The success rate was 25%, not because of the fault of the sower, but the fault of the ground. I remember in those days when we would plant corn, for the first 2 weeks, we will go there and be scouting and hunting to repel birds. In those days, there were squirrels. In my part of the country, they call them akwaru, that will go and bring out the seed until the seed germinated. I don't know if they are still there today. And we had different ways. Nothing technological. Everything we did was kinetic. Kinetic approach. We will go there and we will search, we will look for, we will make sure our presence was there so that we could scare them away. Sometimes you will put something, an effigy that looks like a human being. You will plant it there. Did you do that kind of a thing before? To scare them. Something like an effigy, it may just be a little pole and you wear an old garment on it and you will install it in the farm. Yes, did anybody do that kind of thing before? I was thinking this one. I said if it was today, this day, we will have used technology maybe generates some electromagnetic waves that will repel them. And until you have that thing germinated, you can't leave the farm alone. You'll be watching it. So the first set were those that were the first set of seeds, were the seeds that were prone to being picked up almost immediately after they were sown. Jesus Christ said, some fell by the wayside. And for some Christians, the life we live our lives by the wayside. We live like the Reubenites of old, who got to the brink of Jordan, and they looked at Moses. They said, Moses, somewhere in Numbers chapter 32, they looked at Moses. They said, we have gotten to this place. This place is good for us. It's good for our cattle, and you know that we are cattle rearers. Don't allow us to go far into the promised land. We will stay here. Those are casual Christians that easily become Christian casualties. If you know how to play casual Christianity, when the enemy comes, he wouldn't come for those of us who are in the middle of it. He will start picking from the periphery. Yeah. Does anybody here watch National Geographic? Is it National Geographic they call it? I used to watch that thing. When the lion will come to the herd, he picks those ones. Yes. He can't go into as weak as those things are. You just pick the vulnerable ones. Those who are not ready to be in the middle of things. That was the representation of the seed that fell by the wayside. No commitment. They fell on the hard ground. Did not even germinate before it was picked up. Let's look at it. It did not even germinate at all before it was picked up. Why? Because where the seal fell was the place where, a common place. Common place. The psalmist said, one thing I have desired from the Lord. He said, this one thing I will seek after. One thing. I will be one-eyed. I will be focused. One thing I will seek after. To dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. He said to inquire in his temple. To behold the beauty of the Lord. To inquire. One thing. He said, because in the day of trouble, the Lord will hide me in his pavilion, in the secret place, not by the wayside. A lot of us, where we secure ourselves, we are so free, we are so satisfied being wayside Christians.